Okay, people, today is a short video about submodalities. So, firstly, let me just tell you what a submodality is. A modality is a way of doing something. And the different modalities in NLP are visual, auditory, kinesthetic, olfactory, and gustatory. And these submodalities are the finer details of those. And when we work with submodalities, we actually change the internal representation we have about a certain situation or experience. So when we change that internal representation, that image, the sounds, the feelings associated with it, and the smells and the tastes, we change our entire experience. So, perception is projection. So the submodalities refer to the finer distinctions within our sensory experience. So these are the specific qualities, the attributes of our internal representations. These submodalities play a very crucial role in shaping our thoughts, our emotions, and our behaviors. To put it a very simple way, if we just think for a moment about a situation that was emotionally troubling for us, hold that image in your mind and notice if you are looking through your own eyes or if you are looking at yourself in the picture. If you're looking through your own eyes, step out of the picture and notice what happens. What happens to the sounds? What happens to the image? What happens to the feelings? There's a shift. This is a very simple example of submodality work. Let me tell you a little story about Innovate solutions. Once upon a time, in a bustling city, there was a struggling marketing firm called Innovate Solutions. The company had a dedicated team of professionals, and yet, in spite of their efforts, they found it challenging to attract new clients and generate substantial revenue. The atmosphere in the office was filled with frustration and uncertainty. And one day, the CEO of Innovate Solutions attended a conference on personal development where he discovered the power of submodality techniques and NLP. He was so intrigued by how he could apply these solutions in his business, he decided to share the knowledge with his team. Excited about the possibilities, the CEO gathered his employees together and started to share his new understanding of some submodalities and how they impacted our mindset. He explained how they could use these techniques to transform their internal representations and enhance their perception of success and abundance. Needless to say, the team was pretty skeptical, and yet they decided to give it a try. So they began by identifying their limiting beliefs and negative associations with making sales and generating revenue and networking and closing deals. They then used the NLP techniques to adjust the submodalities of the images, sounds, feelings, smells, and tastes that they held in their mind, and they began to change them. So they started by perhaps changing the brightness or the color or the size of the images associated with rejection and failure. So as they worked on these really compelling positive images, they made them as impactful in their minds as possible. And they added in feelings of confidence and achievement and winning business. As they continued to work on their submodalities, a noticeable shift occurred within the team. Their mindset completely transformed from one of doubt and pessimism to one of optimism. Guess what? They suddenly saw new possibilities. They started to get creative about how they could approach things, and they started approaching potential clients with this newfound sense of enthusiasm, charisma, and creativity. The effects of their work, their submodality work, soon actually became apparent within their business results. Clients responded. Clients felt assured because they presented confidently. The firm's reputation began to grow and word of mouth referrals started pouring in. The team at Innovate Solutions was so happy because they witnessed their efforts turning into real and tangible success. So, boosted by their achievements, the CEO and his team continued to explore and refine their submodality techniques. And they tailored their presentations, their sales pitches, their marketing materials to include carefully designed words that stimulated certain visual, auditory, and kinesthetic elements within the mind of the client that evoked really positive emotions and encouraged the clients to engage with them even further. This immersive experience that they created left a lasting impression and really set them aside from their competitors. As the months went by, Innovate Solutions flourished. They expanded their client base and generated substantial profits. Other businesses took notice because they experienced rapid growth. As a result, many people came to the CEO and said, "Hey, what is it that you're doing?" And as an addition to his own business, the CEO decided to start teaching other people within his business community how to use some modality techniques to impact their business success. What is this all about? You'll already appreciate the power of shifting submodalities. What can we do with it? What we're doing is we're influencing a subjective experience. In NLP, we know that three people sitting in a room are going to have an entirely different experience of that situation because of their own personal filters, their belief system, their values, their mood on that particular day, how warm or cold they are, if they've had a stressful meeting the meeting before. Everyone's having their own subjective experience, and submodalities play a very powerful role in shaping our subjective experience of the world. And the more we understand how they do that, the more we can understand what to do to change them. And we can change submodalities to create positive thoughts, positive emotions, and positive behaviors. Can also enhance communication, because they provide a framework for understanding and improving communication by making sure that our communication speaks to everyone in the room. And by being aware of submodalities, we can actually begin to develop rapport and understand other people's perspectives more clearly. This then allows us to communicate in the language, in the style, and using the words other people can receive more easily. We can also facilitate change. Submodality techniques offer very practical tools for facilitating personal and professional change. By changing the submodalities or modifying them, what we're doing is transforming limiting beliefs, emotional responses, and unhelpful behaviors into more empowering ones. We can also create resourceful states. Some modalities allow us to consciously change our internal representations so that we can become more resourceful. By changing the experience that we have in our senses, we can evoke positive emotions, enhance motivation, and increase our own ability to perform well. We can also overcome limitations. We can obviously address fears, negative associations, belief limitations, and they help us to reshape our internal experiences, enabling us to move past obstacles and reach our goals. They can also enhance creativity and find new ways to solve problems. Submodalities give us a framework, as we know, for exploring different perspectives. By manipulating submodalities, we gain new insights, we can challenge our assumptions, and expand our problem solving capabilities. We also can increase our self awareness. By understanding how we ourselves represent certain experiences, understanding our own cognitive and sensory processes empowers us to recognize and manage our thoughts, emotions, and behaviors far more effectively. It can also make us flexible and more adaptable. As we become proficient in using submodalities and submodality techniques, we become more adept at adjusting our own internal representations to meet the demands of different situations. And this helps us build resilience and personal growth. So, what do we want to pay attention to? Well, things that you want to know about submodalities. You want to be aware of visual submodalities. Are images black and white or color? Near or far? Bright or dim? What size are the images? Are they a movie or are they still? What's the location of the images? We want to be aware of auditory submodalities. Are there any sounds that are important? Are they loud? Are they soft? Are they voices? Are they our voices? Are they somebody else's voices? Are there other sounds? Is there a rhythm or beat to those sounds? Are they foreground or background sounds? We want to be aware of kinesthetic submodalities. The feelings, how does it physically feel in our body? How do we feel emotionally? How do we feel physically? Is there a pressure, a weight, a heat? What's the size of the feeling? Is it inside our body or outside our body? We want to be aware of olfactory or smell submodalities. Is there a specific smell? I don't know about you. When I went to school, they used to polish the floor with a sort of a waxy floor polish. It had a very distinct smell. And whenever I smell that now, it takes me right back to queuing for school lunches in the hallway or in the corridor of my school. Be aware of gustatory or taste sensations. Emotions have a specific taste, by the way. Test it out. Ask yourself, when you've been scared, how did your mouth feel? Was there a taste in your mouth? In NLP, we call key drivers the things that make a difference. So when we are making a change, otherwise known as mapping across, I'm going to come to that. When we're making a change in submodality work, we want to have some key differences in two images. And these are called the key drivers, the differences. The really important ones are often visual. Association and dissociation. Are we in the picture looking through our own eyes, or are we seeing ourselves in the picture? So are we associated looking through our own eyes as if you are now, or are you seeing yourself in the picture dissociated? So association, dissociation, size and location tend to be very powerful visual drivers. However, every human being is unique. So it may well be that a key driver in one scenario is actually olfactory, smell, or it might be gustatory, the taste I had in my mouth. It tasted like metal in my mouth, for example. Mapping across is the act of changing the finer representations or the submodalities of one image and placing them in a different image. This is what we call mapping across in NLP. And this is really how we start to change representations. So the key techniques are visual swish, literally swishing one image into another. Kinesthetic swish, swishing one feeling into another. Visual kinesthetic dissociation, separating an image from a feeling by either turning it down, perhaps turning the feeling up, or stepping out of the image completely. Perceptual positions. This is where we address a challenge, and often this works in negotiation, take the role of the first negotiator, and then we step into the role of the second negotiator, and then we step into the role of the observer. And by acting out or role playing these three positions, we get a completely different perspective. It leads to far more creative solutions. It leads to reduced judgment. It leads to a much greater awareness of the other people's point of view. It's super powerful. Like to dislike. This is where we might take something that we absolutely love and we want to stop eating, and we map across onto that image something we detest that we would never eat in our lives, and this helps us to stop eating things that we think we love and may be bad for our health. We can also use this technique in slightly different ways, and we're going to talk about this in the live training. Limiting belief release, we've already talked about this. And then a behavioral change swish. This is where we take minor behaviors or states and we swish in a new behavior or new representation that allows us to change our behavior going forward. There are 3 rules that you want to be aware of when you're doing submodality work. When you are eliciting, and when I say eliciting, I mean asking the client to describe an image, you want to do this as quickly as possible. The purpose of this is so that the client only works with one image rather than creating multiple images, which creates confusion in the brain. The second thing is when you're making changes or mapping across, you work at the client's pace. You resist the urge to rush through. And the third thing, use a submodality checklist, write everything down because when you're operating at this speed of elicitation, you just can't remember everything. So write everything down. Good. That is the end of this short presentation on submodalities. This is all you need to know before the live training. I look forward to working with you on these techniques.